Hello and welcome to another quick video here. Today I want to talk about not like coding specifically. I simply want to talk about how you can prepare yourself for your upcoming coding classes. All right. So now this is something which I always do with my own students. Like whenever I meet a new student, I sort of have like a warm-up session. Usually I don't bill them for that. I kind of have a casual chit chat with my students and kind of make sure that they are all ready for the actual coding classes. Okay, now this advice is obviously for JavaScript, but it will apply to pretty much any type of coding session or lessons you might be taking. So the very first thing that I always tell my students is you want to make sure that you have budgeted time. I mean, obviously I can't talk about money. I mean, that's something which I cannot discuss. But however, perhaps the biggest issue that many students face is that they may not have budgeted the time requirement that you might have to set aside once you join a coding session. According to me, every 1 hour with your coding tutor usually means you have to set aside 3 hours for practice. This is like a rough estimate, but this is what I usually recommend. So which means if you are spending, let's say you're taking a weekly 2-hour session with your coding tutor, then you need to set aside at least 6 hours for practicing what the coding tutor is discussing with you, which means let's say you're spending about 5 hours with your coding tutor in a week, per week, then you need to make sure that you free up at least 10 to 15 hours of time for practice. Okay, now this may seem extreme. Yeah, I mean it may seem extreme, but in all my experience, what I've seen is the students who are able to set aside 10 to 15 hours every week for practicing what I am teaching them are usually the ones who are able to pick up the concepts and get their money's worth. So once you start, or when you're about to join a coding class, either as a tutor or a self-learning YouTube tutorial or some package, like a learning package that you purchased online, it doesn't matter what kind of classes you have joined. Just remember that the most important thing you can do, like a favor that you can do yourself and to ensure that you get your money's worth, is to set aside the necessary time you need to practice and absorb what you're learning in your coding classes. Now, if you're not able to do this, then what would happen is I call it Netflix learning. Like a lot of times what I call it Netflix learning. What happens is, like, whenever you have a free afternoon or an evening and you're not quite sure what you want to do, you turn on your smart TV or your tablet, iPad or something, and all you do is just browse through the endless amount of movies and TV shows that Netflix keeps adding on a daily basis. So you are not actually enjoying a movie, you're not really passing the time either. You're just getting exhausted because you're just browsing the content. You're seeing these posters of different TV shows and movies, but you're not actually having fun. So that is what will happen. So if you're not practicing, then essentially what you do is what I like to call Netflix learning, which means you're just watching your tutor go through many topics, but you're not in fact learning anything. So the very first thing you can do for yourself is to budget the time. Maybe you want to talk to your family members, you may want to talk to your friends as well, because you will be missing from your life, 10 to 15 hours, whatever you were doing before you joined the classes. Now those 10 to 15 hours will be taken away from your life, which means your friends are going to miss you, your family members are going to miss you, your neighbors are going to miss you, your spouse would be missing you, your partner might be missing you. So you may want to have a chat with the people close to you and explain to them that you will be gone for this many hours because of the coding classes. So that's the first thing I would say. That is the first thing you have to prepare yourself, which is budget the time. Set aside the time necessary for this coding class learning, because you are paying money. So you want to make sure you get your money's worth. Please budget the time. Now the second thing is a learning desk. Okay, so once you have budgeted the time, the next thing is, so that's like a dedicated time for learning, and the next thing you want is a dedicated desk or a workspace. Okay, so for example, if you're going to learn JavaScript, then please make sure that you have a dedicated desk, like one space, maybe in the living room or in your own room or somewhere which is like your own space. A lot of times, many times what I see is students are unable to fix a specific place for learning, and that actually affects the quality of your learning and practice. So set up a desk. If you don't have a desk, buy a desk, and make sure you buy a larger desk, because if you're going to learn programming, then I always recommend to my students that you need to have a minimum of 2 displays. When I say 2 displays, I'm talking about a laptop plus monitor, or if you have a PC, then 2 monitors. So that is what I always recommend. So in your learning desk, make sure it is a fairly large desk, and make sure you have 2 displays, especially if you're learning programming with JavaScript. You will definitely need 2 displays. If you don't want to have 2 displays, you can always purchase a single 4K widescreen monitor. Now that is also okay. So either you get 2 displays of the regular 1080p monitor, like your laptop, plus a monitor, or you have 2 displays and things like that. So otherwise you make sure that you get one single 4K widescreen monitor. So this is also perfectly fine. So please make sure that you have a desk, a dedicated desk. I'm gonna say dedicated here. So a dedicated desk that you're not sharing with anyone, because when you're coding, you do want to sit down pretty much every day and code as much as possible. So make sure that it is a dedicated learning desk, probably in your own room where you have some privacy as well. Maybe you want to listen to some music or something. And if you're sharing the desk with somebody, tell them that, fix some hours, make up a schedule in your home, talk to the other person who will also be using the desk. Make a plan so that your learning time, your desk using time does not conflict with the other person's desk time. And whatever happens, please don't keep or set up your learning desk in a place where there's a lot of movement and people are walking around, guests are coming in, people are going out, stuff like that. No, not really. The ideal learning desk would be some space in your home where you have total privacy, like an actual office. So that is the second thing I would recommend that you ensure is there before you start taking your coding lessons. Now after this might seem a little unnecessary, but it does affect some folks. Make sure you have high speed internet connection. Now this may not be an issue for students in the West, but I do handle a lot of students from India, and this is always a challenge. I just want to add here that a mobile phone connection might not be the best connection to have for your coding classes, because on a daily basis you are constantly watching tutorials, you're constantly downloading files, uploading files, downloading packages, messaging with your tutor. Attending online classes means again that needs a high-speed internet connection. So before you join a coding class, especially if you're from India where internet is cheap but it's still expensive, so you may want to, if you're a student from India, maybe you want to speak to your parents or whoever is supporting you in this learning, and make sure you have a high-speed internet connection for the classes ready to go before you actually begin the classes. And after this, the high-speed internet connection, next thing is, as I always keep saying, please make sure that you have a GitHub account, and also learn how to use GitHub. I myself have several videos. I'm going to put the link in the description of the video. So please make sure that it doesn't matter what kind of coding you are going to learn, GitHub is an essential thing for any type of student. So please make sure that you already create a GitHub account before the class, and also learn how to use GitHub. Create some repositories, do some cloning, create some branches, merge some branches, raise some pull requests, participate in some GitHub discussions and GitHub issues. Ask other people and stuff like that. So make sure that you have your GitHub account working. And after this, you may also want to spend some time on Stack Overflow. It doesn't matter what kind of a developer you are, what kind of a coding classes you're taking. Whatever is the learning you're doing, you'll always have hundreds of questions. So the sooner you become self-sufficient at finding answers, the faster you'll become a developer. So if I were you, after you spend some time learning GitHub and Git Bash, I would definitely spend some time on Stack Overflow, maybe do some homework of your own, and then ask some questions, practice questions, try to come up with questions, and then try to find the answer on the massive website that is Stack Overflow. Other than this, let me think about this. So make sure you have the time. That's the most important thing. Set aside at least 10 to 15 hours for practicing whatever your coding tutor is teaching. Don't do Netflix learning. Don't just sit and watch him do stuff. That's not going to help you anyway. I mean, he is getting paid, but you're not learning anything. And of course, second, make sure you have a dedicated desk. There is that, 2 monitors or a single big monitor. High-speed internet connection, yes, definitely. Make sure you already have a GitHub account and learn how to use Git Bash. And of course, you should make sure you know what this website Stack Overflow is, and you should learn how to ask questions. And I think this is all you need to have ready before you attend coding sessions. And you might be thinking, if by the time you reach the end of this video here, and if you think all of this sounds obvious, then there you go. You are already ready for your coding classes, and I congratulate you. But I've been doing this for 10 plus years, and a lot of times, for whatever reason, getting these 5 things sorted becomes some kind of an insurmountable challenge for a lot of students, which makes them learn really, really slowly, and a lot of times some students just drop out. Usually blaming the coding tutor for not teaching properly. It's possible the tutor is not that good, but a lot of times it is these basic things which are missing, which actually makes people quit learning programming. So anyway, so there you go. That is all the advice I want to give you today, and that's all there is to it. Thank you.